So come on and join me. So join me right now. Two of our engineering staff, Russell Tammany is sitting down. He is a contract IT guy from Exponentia. And to my left, your right, Alex Gumpel, who is our flow master. He's actually, Alex became the local TriCaster expert because he was the first to use it last year at CES.
And I read the manual. And
he read the manual. No one else wanted to. Missing right now in action, but we hope will show up at some point, Lisa, our CEO, and John Slanina. And I don't think Colin comes on a Saturday, but otherwise Colin. But so our engineering team in-house is John Slanina, who's the studio manager, Alex, who's not only one of our editors, but he calls himself the flow master. He's in charge of the flow, this internal video flow. Colin Weir is our streaming engineer. So those three guys are in-house. We're looking to hire a CTO to kind of manage the engineering department. But then Russell, who is a contract IT guy, did an amazing job building the studio with all of our IT infrastructure, from our Wi-Fi to our Comcast fiber, 100 megabit fiber, to the SonicNet. But Russell has his own company, Exponentia Systems. But you give us 10 hours a week, something like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 20? about 10 hours a week. But since we've discovered that we've had this task to quickly replace MediaFly,
we've had to up your hours a little bit.
Yeah, not officially so far. So
right.
But
well, we'll pay you. Don't worry, we'll pay you. I'm sorry, but Russell's great. Russell's a hardworking guy. Everybody in our engineering staff is hardworking. It's kind of weird because we're both a media company. I guess we're first and foremost a media company, but because we're an internet media company, it has to be a technology company as well. We use technology very heavily.
Well, and we're doing stuff that not a lot of people are doing.
Right. We're inventing it as we go along. That's completely separate from the fact that also our content is technology-based. And one would think, and I certainly saw it at the beginning, well, I'm a technologist, so I should be able to do all this myself. And in the original incarnation of TWiT for the first 3 years, I did the Drupal on the website. But obviously we've well gone beyond my limited abilities, and it can't just be one person anymore. So we have a team of people. So we were going to have this meeting in private, and I said, well, why don't we just do this on camera? Not all the relevant parties are here, unfortunately.
John says he's on his way.
Oh, thank you.
He fell asleep. He says, fell asleep on my way.
He needs the sleep, and that's for sure.
Yeah, sleep is one thing that hasn't been happening much this week.
I know, you guys are working your butt off. So, and so one of the reasons I wanted to do this in public is to encourage our audience to be a part of this process. God knows you guys have been all along, and you're very smart. There's a lot of very senior technology users in our audience. Both live in the chat room, but also after the fact. If you're watching this on inside.twit.tv, you can leave a comment on the Inside Twit blog if you've got some suggestions. So here's where we stand right now. We know we need to replace the encoding services provided by MediaFly. That's one path. We also need to replace the app services provided by MediaFly. That's a completely separate path.
Correct. So one of the things that MediaFly did that we can't seem to find one exact pre-written packaged, just, get this and everything's great.
For the encoding, for the transcoding.
It's not just for the transcoding. There are some packages that do a lot of things for transcoding and encoding, and we've been looking at integrating those into the process. The issue is that they also created the feeds, and that they also kept track of the metadata.
So if we were in a perfect world, what would happen is an editor would edit the show, would go to a web-based form.
Ideally, your twit.tv.
Ideally, our website
submission.
Here comes Lisa, or else someone similarly configured, and so the ideal would be the editor would finish the. We just started. Would finish the edit. Would go to a web-based form, title, show number, some metadata like show notes, length, runtime, and there's some internal stuff that we don't publish, like where the ads sat, all that stuff. Would fill out that form, push publish, in my mind, and I guess at some point he would also have to export the finished video to a folder. Push publish, and then an entire process would begin, going through Drupal initially, but eventually running other scripts locally and so forth.
Right. So, we're looking at something that could potentially take that type of API call or push of data, and take that into the encoding process so that we have all of the information that we need to put metadata in the file, to identify the file, to monitor the process, and then to let the website know, hey, this whole process completed successfully. It's okay to make these live. It's okay to make the feeds live, or somebody needs to look at something.
One bad thing that happens right now is that an editor finishes, pushes a button, uploads the mezzanine file, publishes the something.
Right now, it's,
you don't publish yet because it's not done.
In the MediaFly way.
Well, just or anyway, however we're doing.
So we upload the audio and publish that, the RSS feed for the audio.
So do you use Feeder for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we use Feeder, which is a Mac-based program that it makes it a WYSIWYG editor for the XML.
For RSS feeds.
So the XML's published, pushed up, and the file's pushed up.
Right.
And then that's kind of done.
Then you add the show page on the website.
Oh, that's right,
with
the
just
website.
the audio link.
So you have to do an RSS feed, you have to do the website. This is for audio, and you have to do the...
you have to put the tagging information into the file with the album art,
and the way that we're tagging
ID3V2.
And then you have to upload it to CacheFly. So that's for audio. There's an additional thing for video, which is that you have to transcode it in at least 2 formats, right? Actually, it's many more, but...
Well, MediaFly is doing like 15 or...
Yeah, it's 15 or 16 formats.
Right.
So you have to transcode it into the proper formats. And with video... so you modify our website, but video takes longer than audio.
Right.
So the editor could finish all the audio stuff, and this is what I used to do. And I'd be done with TWiT at 9 in the Sunday night, and I'd walk home and I'm done.
Right.
But now that we do video, the problem is it takes hours to transcode.
Right. So we upload the file. Now that's gotten faster now the way the fiber and stuff. So it's 15 minutes or so to upload.
How big is the mezzanine, the work file?
They're between 1 and 2 gigs usually. Depending on the length of the show.
Right.
TNT is like a little under a gig.
So it takes however long. On a 100 megabit connection, it probably takes 15 minutes to upload.
So that used to take a lot longer, but now that's shortened, which is nice. But then MediaFly then picks up the file. Then we have to go to their publisher website and fill in, copy and paste all the data into that and publish it on there. And then that just says publishing for a couple hours, and then it sends an email when it's done. And that can take anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours. It just kind of depends on the time of day. And
at that point, the editor then has to go to the TWiT.tv site and edit that so that it shows, and you don't want to do it ahead of time because people click on a dead link.
Right.
So you wait.
So sometimes that happens in the middle of the night when it's done, and editors are usually sleeping or something.
It's not ideal.
And there's no
all about
progress. There's no progress currently with the MediaFly system that is showing you, there's all of these stages. There's the stages where the first file has to be encoded. There's 2-pass encode. There's optimization for progressive download. Then it has to go on through all of those sequential files. Then it has to upload them, publish them to YouTube. All of these stages are stages that, in kind of my interim solution that I've kind of worked through and come up with a method of doing that. But as I've done that, you can see all of these potential places where what happens if this process fails.
And what has happened, in fact, it happened last week, and some of you are aware of it, is that sometimes because of glitches, shows don't get published, or they get published in some places but not all places. So last week we had 4 errors. TWiT got stalled in the MediaFly queue.
Which has happened before with other shows. It happens maybe about every other month, like one show maybe.
In this case, it was pretty bad because it happened. Well, wait a minute. Regardless, it happened, and then we thought we'd unblocked it, and it happened again. And it was, so it was like a 3-time failure. Another show, everything was done, triangulation, everything was done, except somebody forgot to put it on the website. And you can see why, because you were waiting, and it's 8 hours later. Now you update the website. Anyway, so this is an error-prone system. It's not. In fact, it's amazing that it's worked as well as it has.
There's a lot of just repeated things that you have to do, and just have to remember to do all these steps. So we'd like to simplify where you just have to put everything in once and hit one button, and then it just automates everything.
So this conversation, then, the reason I'm having this is I want to set up the problem for you, because somebody who's saying, okay, use compressor. That's not okay. That's a little itty bitty issue.
Right.
You see this as a much larger workflow issue. Go ahead.
Right. So one of the things is that MediaFly right now doesn't really do, so we need to replace MediaFly, but MediaFly doesn't really do what we want.
Anyway.
Ideally, anyway. Right. So
now that we're rethinking it, it's an opportunity to rethink it and do it right.
And we've always wanted to kind of go in-house with our encoding for quality control reasons. And since this is, we have to do something now, and we might as well
So compressor is not a solution, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. this has to all be automated, and it has to be scripted, and it's so many things that, in fact, it has to really be done through a PHP and a website. You can automate a compressor through Apple script and stuff. It's just not a good solution. It's not flexible enough. And it's not the only program that will do all of this. In fact, we're using right now, and this is what I think what MediaFly was using, FFmpeg, which I'm sure all of you know. It's a very well-known Unix-based, Linux-based, but it runs on every platform, command line encoder, and it's good. It does everything we need to do.
Yeah, FFmpeg is a great, you know, particularly for the price, it's a great encoder.
Free.
And it's free. You have to go through quite a bit of documentation, quite a bit of options to actually get exactly the type of file that you want to create.
But you only do that once.
But you do that once.
It's a pain in the ass, but you
fine-tune it, and that's basically what we've been doing over the past couple of days in our kind of interim FFmpeg solution, is fine-tuning it to match as closely as possible to what MediaFly was generating.
Right.
There's
but that was only the transcoding portion.
That's only the transcoding portion, and even still, you know, so with my 2-pass FFmpeg command line, I'm looking at a 1237 character line.
Right, but we're aware
you know,
of that. And I don't think that that's necessarily a disadvantage. That's all the switches.
That has all the switches, but it takes a limited amount of information. So, you know, in the current form where we are dropping that file in and having that file process, the only information that we really have is the name of the file.
Right.
And, you know, based on that name of the file, we can decide, well, we need this to upload to this certain directory. We need these files to be named in this format. But we don't have the ability of watching a progress, getting an ETA, submitting it with metadata, and then tracking it on its way back. And so there's all these potential failure codes where you're pushing this into a black box where you've tuned all of the code and you've put all of the command switches and made it do everything that you wanted it to do. But when something goes wrong, that process can hang, get stuck.
Which is probably what's happening at MediaFly.
Which is probably what's happening at MediaFly. And you know, some of my research into the progressive download, enabling our files for progressive download, is that that's something that FFmpeg does not do by itself. And so we use a Python script that's compiled for Windows on the machine that we're using this on, called Qt Fast Start. And so what you have to do is you have to do the two-pass encodes, and then you have to pass all of the result files through Qt Fast Start. And what that does is it takes some of the move atoms and some of the information that you need to have in the very beginning of the file that FFmpeg interleaves throughout the file or puts towards the end of the file for your web player, for Flow Player, JW Player, you know, all the different Flash-based players to support progressive download need to have that in the beginning of the file.
So we've been looking at, there is a company called encoding.com that I think Revision 3 uses.
Yeah, Revision 3 uses encoding.com. There's a lot of platforms that use encoding.com. And
I don't know what CNET uses. Somebody was saying CNET.
Yeah, I saw CNET in the chat room.
Do we know what does anybody know what CNET uses?
No, but I'm going to make a note.
So one of the things is, you know, I first found encoding.com looking for some of this and got excited about how it could potentially work, because what they've done is they've written an API that allows you to control job submission and status and tracking and output.
I should get a notepad.
Well, I'm just
the one issue with encoding is that it doesn't handle the feeds at all. So, you know, so it's not a complete solution to doing the feeds.
But it's a piece of the puzzle. And it's scriptable.
So it's scriptable. And so what we found is that, you know, we can use this API, we can have our web developers, you know, build us an interface for the TWiT TV website that publishes a job to encoding.com. They will go through and make the multiple encodes and send it out.
My guess is, by the way, that CNET uses humans.
Could be,
and this is
the process
manual. They can afford to have a lot of people doing this, and we have to automate it.
Right.
We put out 30 shows. There aren't enough humans to do this.
Right.
Right. And there's you know, so there's some issues with encoding to where they'll create an MP3, but they won't create it how we want the MP3 to be tagged. You know, they'll put some metadata in the file, but they won't put necessarily all of the metadata that we want in the file. But they have really worked out the FFmpeg cloud-based encoding system where you dump in files and then they transcode them all. They separate them between multiple servers.
Encoding.com, which we're talking about still, right? Uses FFmpeg.
Yeah, I believe they use FFmpeg from their advanced properties menu. You can kind of tell.
It's a cloud solution that we would upload a mezzanine file to. We would have scripts and workflow set up with them,
now,
and it would churn away.
Unfortunately,
and Lullabot also has worked with them and said that they were not really effective with larger files, and that they have now.
That's part of the
They
problem.
have now taken it to no, but they've spent a year with them, and now they're doing it quite well. So they recommended it.
Right.
Something we should look at too.
It is definitely something that's still. It's been on the list or the short list from the beginning, and it's kind of still on the short list.
Another solution we're looking at is an in-house solution,
right?
Sorensen.
So basically, encoding.com's written this platform, but you have to pay them for it. It runs on Amazon servers, which you have to pay for Amazon servers, and you know, the bandwidth and the shipping in and out. You know, we have to upload the mezzanine file to them in the first place. So if we create the MP3 off of the mezzanine file, that delays the process because now we have to wait for this large file to upload before we get our MP3 dump back out of it. So
we should say, by the way, that I would say any solution that we look at from FFmpeg on will give us can give us a very good quality product.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not really the question. Is like, how are we going to get the best looking video?
Right. And one of the things that we're really trying to concentrate on in the interim is that while we go through and make these changes, that we don't try to change too many variables. So I know that I can make FFmpeg encode higher quality output files than it's currently outputting in the interim script. However, we looked at exactly what MediaFly was encoding and decided that, you know, if we're moving to this interim solution or to this final platform, we want to be able to generate the exact same type of files, the baseline level 3.0 with all of these different settings of reference frames and audio and bit rate. And those aren't necessarily the highest quality files that FFmpeg can create. So we would like to change those at some point because technology's kind of gone on. One of the reasons to use level 3.0 was older iOS devices. So maybe that doesn't matter anymore. Right. Maybe we should keep that on the mobile, but we can make the SD and the HD versions of a higher quality. So we have that option.
We also need a solution that's flexible enough to encompass other deliveries systems and future delivery systems. For instance, this system will also have to upload to YouTube.
Correct.
Right.
This system will
with metadata, which is
appropriate metadata,
and hopefully to place it in your playlist, to move to the top of the playlist.
Yeah, all this we're doing by hand right now.
Currently, MediaFly uploads to YouTube with title and description, but it does not put it into a playlist. So that's another step that we have to do is go and log in and add it to that.
It will also need to do HD versions. It will need to do an HD stream. It will need to, well, actually, that'll be separate. That's the streaming server. And it will need to do, I presume that this won't impact BitTorrent Live.
No, that's...
So the HD stream and BitTorrent Live, that's the streaming
end. This is the
so this is only
encoding.
Offline. Okay.
Right.
So the ideal, again, let me just give you the quick ideal, would be editor finishes the edit, uploads, or actually, I don't even want him to upload. I want him to say export the mezzanine to a folder.
What we would ideally like is that they copy it to a volume on the SAN.
Right.
That has been designed so that it's a watch folder, and then it retrieves that file name into the web system so that they can select that file name and basically match up the, you know, when they're creating the new show profile on the website. Right. This is the file that we've seen in the watch folder. Yes, this is the file I want to match this metadata and start this encode with.
So you upload to a watch folder. The editor does, of course, some human has to be involved in filling out a form with metadata, album art, thumbnails. But we want to do it once in a way that, you know, and we're thinking this, we interface this with probably our TWiT.tv site so that you're filling it, because Drupal's very good at this kind of thing, is we fill out a form that has everything that we need to know, some of it public, some of it not. They push publish, and they go home.
Right.
And the rest of this is fully automated. So that's the goal.
And so back to what Sorensen does is, so we were looking at a local encoding option, and what Sorensen has done with their Squeeze server product is sort of write the same thing that encoding.com has, except
but local.
They also, well, they have a cloud service, and what they've decided to do is, you know, their cloud service also includes hosting, which we're not really that interested in hosting it with somebody else. So what they've done, though, is basically take the same bare bones of that product and also decide to sell it as a local solution. So you can basically get the kind of platform that encoding.com is running on your own local equipments. It's not using FFmpeg. It's using Sorensen uses main concept H.264. They also use main concept's H.264 GPU accelerated version.
Which is good, because the faster we can encode, the faster we can get the show out. So using a GPU speeds up encoding time. We like that.
Right, and they support all the newest CUDA cards, the NVIDIA Tesla cards that you would actually put in a server for doing this type of encoding.
The other reason I like local is because it's a capital upfront cost, but then there's not a monthly fee.
Right.
And we can own the hardware, and if we want to speed it up, we have ways to throw more hardware at it. So.
Right. You have complete control over it.
Right.
Encoding, I'm sure, does a great job, but you do get thrown into a queue.
And that was a problem we had with MediaFly, is that
Right.
we weren't high enough in the queue. It would take a long time. It is top priority. So here's number. Let me give you now that you know what the problem is, let me give you the priorities. Top priority is that the shows get out in a timely fashion, accurately represented on all platforms.
Right.
So delivery, quick and accurate delivery is number one. Secondary, although important, is that it's not be a lot of work for our staff, because they've got a lot to do, and the less that they do, the more shows we can do. So that's another reason. Timely and efficient, I guess, are the two.
Currently,
and reliable would be important up there too.
So after the edit, it takes, to get the MP3 up. That's really quick, because we just upload that and do the page. That's fine. That gets up whenever the edit's done, within 5 minutes of that. The video then takes 2 to 6 hours to have the video done, uploaded and rendered or transcoded to all the formats and put on the page. Can take a lot as long as that. With this new system, we're looking at our test right now is 25 minutes about for an hour show.
Yeah, it seems to be taking about 25 minutes. Basically, I've written an interim solution that's essentially a 436 kilobyte batch file that loops through all of our watch folders. It brings in the file. It strips back out the file name to identify the show that it's a part of and the episode that it's a part of, because we need to upload back to a folder at CacheFly that includes that information. Does all the multiple encodes, FTPs it to the correct locations, uploads it to YouTube without metadata information, because we're still working on a drop folder basis. And the actual FFmpeg encode times are actually somewhere more around 10 minutes for an hour show. So they're extremely fast. This is a 3.6 quad-core Xeon machine on one of our Dell Precision workstations that's in the rack downstairs. And the uploading's taking another 15 or 20 minutes. The Qt Fast Start sits in between, runs very quickly. The YouTube upload also has to happen. So right now in this serial version of the script, where it's doing one thing at a time as it runs through these processes, an hour show is taking about 25, 30 minutes. And there's the potential to basically make that even faster, either separating this script out into 2 chunks for transcoding versus uploading, and that's what the web system would basically be built to do. So
ideally, we're looking at what of course we'd like to do is, when the edit's done, have everything uploaded, the show, all the videos posted and published within 30 minutes after the edit.
That would be so fantastic.
Or an hour, depending on the length of the show.
It would be good to just say, an hour, within the hour.
So it'd be within 2 hours of the show finishing, ideally.
So, and more and more, though, I mean, I have to say, it's going to, we really want the live to be what people watch. And if you want to watch it in a timely fashion, you can watch live. And we really provide those downloads. I'm thinking of them as a kind of convenience if you miss the live show. So an hour would be fine. I mean, we're TiVoing it for you, so you don't have to, right? But we really do need it to be reliable, and right now it's how we make all our money. So we really need it to be there. When we do a show, I don't want it to not be posted, things like that. So it really becomes important right now, and less so as time goes by, but really it becomes important.
Well, I have a question with regards to after, if we're able to accomplish this and then it's posted, is there a way to write in the script where you can find out if something didn't upload? Like there'd be an error message that comes back? I mean, we'd have to be checking it,
that
but
may be an issue
would
with
that
batch
be part
files,
of it?
But ultimately we'd have...
Right. Ultimately, what you want is a monitoring process where you can go to the site and see which stage the file's at, and if we're using FFmpeg, the programming to call FFmpeg needs to return whether it was successful or not.
But FFmpeg gives you results.
FFmpeg gives you a, it's got a bunch of different warning levels.
Does it have a logging?
It has a logging capability, and what we're currently doing is taking its logging capability and just appending it into an email that goes out when
eventually,
it's completed. So somebody would have to look at that. But if you could put it into a parser and
it's
know
not a big deal to do that.
What,
yeah,
but you have to know what error codes FFmpeg would return and handle those in the parser,
right?
At each step. But that's something that we'd want to have. The other thing is that we'd also want to have a process for restarting it. If this fails, does it clean itself up? Is it ready to resubmit it?
I think
it's
not
all
with batch
handleable,
files,
but right.
I think Python, Perl, Ruby. We can script all of this stuff as long as you're getting that information from FFmpeg. And if you have a detailed log, it's easy to tail it and parse it and be able to see what's going on. So I'm not too concerned about that. We do have a guy in Vancouver, Spiro, who is doing some programming for us. We understand that this is going to require both web programming and scripting in-house. So Russell's a good scripter. But we may have to hire somebody to do coding.
Yeah, I mean, I do IT and networking consulting, and like the video encoding thing and writing a program for a web page is not really. It's just a hobby. It's just
you know a lot about it. You know more about it than I thought you would. Actually.
Right, and what's nice is that it's actually a good exercise to go through it, and knowing the issues with handling the metadata with the batch file, it's still
First
a good
iteration
process
is huge because that's what teaches you all of the
to find all of the little gotchas, what happens when somebody puts a 0-byte file in the incoming directory,
which happened yesterday,
and it kind of choked on and returned immediately, and then got stuck in this loop where it would keep trying to run that 0-byte file through FFmpeg.
Right. So
where, there's all these potential things where you need to handle it if everything is done correctly, but you also need to handle it when, bad input is put in and when things aren't done correctly.
Now, here's one negative to me on Squeeze, which is it runs on Windows.
Right. So Squeeze Server requires a Windows server. It requires SQL.
I'd love to see this run on BSD or Linux.
Right, and
I know we could script it much more easily if it did. So that's to me an FFmpeg.
Right. I mean, one of the things that Sorensen does nicely is that they have an API for handling all of those encoding errors. And they have progress and ETA, and they return it in a nice little JSON request that actually gives you a progress bar with the ETA and time in it. So there's a whole bunch of small things that are in Sorensen that would make it easier for somebody who is actually coding this web application to take that data back. The question is, and this is kind of what we were talking about yesterday, is, how valuable is that? Sorensen creates some potential issues as well because it's reliant on a database. You are now reliant on a database server for keeping track of these jobs. So while you can have 5 or 10 or 15 Sorensen servers, all processing jobs that were submitted to the batch, their API handles distribution of the incoming files to multiple servers, loads them up, brings all the files back together. The issue is that now if you're trying to say, okay, we want redundancy, we want 4 servers and we want them to all handle themselves. If this database server is down, then the rest of the Sorensen encoding servers are down.
By the way, Sullivan, that is not true. Downloads and live views count. We count all possible views. All of them are important. Right now, we make more money on downloads because the downloads are about 80 or 90% of our total views.
Well, and I was talking with Barry yesterday. His numbers are more accurate, and there's a way now we can actually start counting the live viewers since the way we're setting up our servers.
This is just one of a lot of
initiatives. So
initiatives.
we're going to start working on that as well,
There's other initiatives
guys.
like getting accurate live view counts.
Well, I think I have that.
Good.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that
so
next
that's
time.
Somebody else is working on that. That's But please don't think that watching live
So
doesn't
Russell,
count.
I'm throwing that at you in
Absolutely
in a day. You ready?
Nice.
We do not count the Justin.tv archive. I don't know if we do. Bear might be doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Bear and I went over the selection, and he pulls from all of our providers as well as,
Smir, do you actually use Sorensen? So this is where we'd like you, chat room. Now, I'd like to ask you this. If you're not an expert in this, to keep the noise level down. Maybe just sit and watch in the chat room for a little bit. But if you're somebody who does this or has experience with this, we would like to speak to you. So Aosmer says that he uses Sorensen regularly. It crashes a lot.
Right.
Right.
That's the kind of feedback I want to hear. Not, oh, I've heard it crashes a lot.
No, I saw quite a few.
If you use it and it crashes a lot, I do want to hear that. We use it in my work. Okay.
So, and one thing is that, without actually putting something like that into production and, using it for an extended period of time, you don't really get that experience of, everything's great with this, but now we have this crash every once in a while.
We are a challenging environment. We're doing 30 shows. We're transcoding into more than 2 formats, as many as 15 formats. So we're doing a lot of
and yes, of course, the concern with the database is that it would have to be clustered to be redundant. That's something that we definitely looked at, but that can take the cost from doing 2 or 3 independent FFmpeg servers that can be easily switched out by an IP address to now you're relying on this complicated database and job and queue system that has to be kept running with that more expensive hardware. But
reseller and consultant for Sorensen.
Ah, good.
And our SAN is running HFS for the file system format, so we can't store Microsoft SQL clusters on it right now. Yet. So FFmpeg, in terms of monitoring and launching it, there were a couple of ideas that I had. I have not coded a system that does this, so this is one of these things that it's good to find more information about this. One of the things that could be done with FFmpeg is that as it writes its file out, you can see the file grow. You can kind of estimate what the output file size would be by the bit rate, the average bit rate, and so you can make a rough percentage estimate of how far FFmpeg is done simply by looking at the output file size in real time versus the average bit rate and the mezzanine input files size. So there are definitely ways that I can think of that FFmpeg can be handled and massaged into returning the error information, returning the progress information. It just takes somebody that knows how to do that.
It's a big coding,
code that.
Thing.
So
in a sense, Sorensen and encoding.com have already done a lot of the coding.
Right.
So it's kind of the decision that companies often make. Do you write your own software or do you use bundled software?
Right. And
writing your own can be a tar pit, but you get a better solution sometimes.
Right, but you're still basically trying to create what this other company has done as a business. It's their business to do this.
Right.
And you're saying, well, we want to do it ourselves.
But their stuff won't necessarily work 100% with everything we want to do.
Right, exactly.
Which is kind of the problems.
So one of the things is that...
Do you guys know High Vision? Because a couple of people, one in the chat room and Gary said High Vision, HAIVISION. Anybody?
Right.
Does anybody out there know High Vision?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that come across.
Handbrake uses Handbrake's a front end to FFmpeg. A lot of FFmpeg is on Mac, and a lot of people who are doing transcoding are using FFmpeg without knowing it. It is the king of transcoding solutions. And some people say it doesn't give good results. It depends what codec you use.
Right, it depends all of the settings.
You can use lame, but you don't have to use lame. You could use Fraunhofer with FFmpeg. You don't have to use any particular codec. So.
Yeah, we're using the libx264 and the libfaac. The FFmpeg that we're actually using right now, I've compiled it in 64-bit with some of the latest libraries
Predators
for Windows 64.
That's a good recommendation. The Predators, U.S. Predator UAV program uses High Vision. That's a good. So the other issue is licenses. So FFmpeg uses an open source H.264.
Right.
Doesn't let you off the hook necessarily because MPEG LA.
It's one of these things where to be able to compile these type of files, you have to go download the libraries, compile them yourselves.
Now, a guy who does this for Brown University says High Vision's been a headache for them.
Yeah, and so with FFmpeg, that's kind of that question of
what's the big disclaimer?
Is it okay to use these kind of files for commercial purposes?
And it's unknown because MPEG LA, which owns the rights to H.264, has been a little unclear.
Which is one of the big things that Sorensen has on their site.
We're indemnified.
Hey, we pay for main concepts. this is for commercial purposes, and
so that's an argument in favor of using.
That's in favor of using a commercial solution there. But the cost is that if you have to buy the Sorensen server software, we don't have an official quote from them yet, but I believe it's around $5,000 per server. That's approximately the cost of a very high-end encoding machine by itself. So FFmpeg. Every time you use FFmpeg on one of these machines, you could potentially have a whole nother machine.
Right.
And then you also don't have to do the, as much as I like to sell Microsoft and Windows solutions, you don't have to do
yes, you are, Ed.
Clustered SQL
That's okay,
server
Ed. I'm lost.
and build a whole bunch of Windows servers with Windows Server licenses. Have to think about client access licenses and all of this kind of commercial stuff that we deal with when we're in that sort of environment. So.
Someone asked earlier in the chat room if we're going to, patent this and monetize this once we figure it out, and you bet.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things. You end up creating this platform that that we find very useful, and it does these things that all of these other players in the marketplace, haven't figured out. They're like, oh, well, we made something for encoding, and all this does is encoding. And they haven't handled the output and the input and the workflow. They just made a product for encoding.
Right.
So yeah, once that's created, we could make a twitcoder.com and
multi-transcode internet go.
Again, Thrasher, we could support WebM, we could support DivX. All of these solutions will basically we're going to support any codec. It's really that's up to them.
So
that's a
the
business decision.
Down.
Yeah, that's a business decision about what we transcode to.
Right.
But I would love to support WebM, of course, and we would like to support DivX and all of that. Right now, the published versions are H.264, high and low. But as I said, there are many other versions that MediaFly has been making for other platforms. That's kind of less of an issue now because losing MediaFly means we're losing those platforms.
Right.
But ultimately, Houdini 7, Mulaney is rewriting the Roku app.
Right.
And we hope that next he'll do, Popcorn Hour and Vizio. We'll eventually get back on those platforms. But we are going to lose those platforms initially.
And so one of the important things with the H.264 and X.264 platform is that they have these kind of standards for the encode. So it's not enough to just say, this is H.264, this is an X.264 encode. They have the baseline and the main and all different levels, and each of those there's a big chart out somewhere on Wikipedia that shows you all of the current X.264 standards and levels and versions and what type of advanced encoding that they support. That doesn't necessarily translate into device compatibility. So
and we were kind of hoping with when we made the mobile version, or when we rejiggered that stuff, that the mobile one would be used to replace some of those really specialized.
Right. So we may, we've kind of, I guess, decided to not try and create 20 files out of every mezzanine file.
Right.
But
unless
we may
there's
at some point need to.
Right. And if we need to, that also kind of points towards certain
I'd like a solution
more
that's
than others.
flexible enough to do that, to grow.
And being able to change these settings and then test the device compatibility on them and keep current with this new device came out, now my XYZ device, or the new TV does not play well with this format, the bit rate's too high in this container. There's all kinds of issues, and there's also potentially some issues creating the HLS files. We're creating progressive download files, and the progressive download files, your browser, your Flow player starts playing them, but it downloads the entire file in the background. Even if all you were going to do was watch and maybe try to skip around for a little bit, find something you wanted to watch and go away, you had to download the entire file. And so there's pseudo streaming that we may be able to look into setting up with if CacheFly servers support that. We might be able to have the ability to skip around within a file and have the server just return from where you skipped and not run a huge buffer in front. And that's kind of also with the HLS streaming what the iOS devices want to do. It doesn't make sense on your iPad to pull up a file and have the iPad have to download the entire 1 gigabyte HD file to the memory of the iPad just so that you can watch a file that you may not want to keep through the web browser. There's a lot of kind of options that haven't been set up with MediaFly and that have just been done this way because that's the way they've been done, that we can look at.
We've been talking around and around in circles, and one of the reasons I wanted to get all the parties at the table and talk about this and talk about it in front of you is to kind of get I think we need to come to a decision soon, because
right. And yes, it is complicated. I mean, and that's why we've kind of waited.
So we're throwing it in the chat room
and trying to figure out all of these little variables, because you can start to walk yourself down this path,
right,
and then run into some variable that means that path may not have been the way to go.
So I'm writing down High Vision, Kaltura, FlixCloud.
Now, Alex Lindsay mentioned Telestream. I've seen it a couple times
for
in
the
the chat
episode
room.
engine. For that product, or
yeah, I believe so. I mean, Alex, I know, has mentioned that to me a few times.
Is that the one he gave us? That was the.
Didn't we get Episode Engine?
I thought we did.
I thought we
heard
had it too.
I thought we had some ability to take a look at it. I think Colin mentioned something.
I believe we have it, and it's what it is it watches. It's a watch.
It's a desktop
solution.
application that watches a watch folder, and Sorensen Squeeze is kind of similar in that perspective.
Right.
So if they don't support things like having a variable for where the upload destination is based on the input file name, then we now have to process their application's output with a script in the first place. So, does it make sense to, this is the thing with the Sorensen versus FFmpeg too, does it make sense to write a large script and write a web API that handles everything and use one of these programs like Episode Engine or Sorensen to just do the encode and then pick the file back up from them again? So you have to write this logic where now you're waiting on this process that you don't have control over, that now you have to be able to make API requests or figure out whether it's done, figure out whether it's successful, and then move it on into the next step of uploading it to where we wanted to upload it. If their outputs, like YouTube is one of the things that keeps coming up. It keeps killing these different encoding software platforms where you run it on your desktop PC. It might take all the shows that you put in a drop folder, save them somewhere, but we need to then take them and upload them via a specific folder path, create the directory, but we also don't necessarily want to upload to the live directory. We may want to upload to a stage directory and then do a remote FTP move to put that file live, to prevent, it would prevent you from partially downloading the file.
Yeah, we've been doing that for some time.
Which is kind of what we've been doing already. So I've built these interim thing that basically handles that.
The problem with CDN is that you can get a partial download.
Right, so we don't want it to start replicating around.
Vantage workflow automation. And then a lot of people have said something that Kaltura is being used by, it's open source.
Yeah, Vantage, I've downloaded Vantage on the machine that we're kind of using as the guinea pig machine for doing all of this. I have Sorensen Squeeze server and their desktop app and Vantage.
I'd like to look at Kaltura because that's open source and it's being used by everybody but Brown University in the Ivy League. And it sounds like it has a workflow.
Right.
What does Kaltura use for encoding? Is it using FFmpeg or is it using its own transcoding engine? Yes, it's her birthday tomorrow.
Oh,
happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yeah, boss lady.
Boss lady. Now Kaltura is a new name to me. It's new. I think it's new. You see, it's not a Windows thing, so we're gonna have to.
No, I mean, and it's something where as a consultant too, my job isn't always my target is in the Windows and Microsoft market. That's what I know most. I'm most familiar with,
right?
But I want to find the best solution for the job.
We think that Revision 3 uses encoding.com.
It says on encoding.com's website that Revision 3 is a client. So what that means, are the files that they actually output from them? Do they use it for something else?
Right.
They
might have used them once.
I mean, there's, that's why, the mega upload guys said that, we've got all of these Fortune 500 companies using us.
Right.
That's,
We have calls into Jim Louderback, I'm sure. We got to talk to all these guys.
I'd like to go and visit their studio anyways and take a tour, probably bring you guys with me and,
That's a great idea.
Go down with the engineers. That was always my intent. CNET, yeah.
At CES, I really wanted to see CNET's control room for their booth, but we just didn't have the time.
Right. My natural inclination is always to go with an open source solution and scripting, because I know how powerful Python or Perl or Ruby or something like that.
You know that you're not going to get stuck.
And we could, code our way around it. There's always the issue of, the coder leaves and nobody knows what the hell's going on and it's not documented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sounds a lot like us.
It doesn't sound familiar. I mean, come on.
So that's always the risk, but I do think that we'd get a better result. Thank you, Nicholas. Can you send me an email, leo@leoville.com, and I will respond to you? That sounds like Brown's looking up looking at different solutions right now.
Yeah, and I saw someone mention something about how much the hardware actually makes a difference, and this is also something that we're kind of looking at because
Joe Goucher, I will take you to the French Laundry if you help us. I don't know who Joe Goucher is, but
I haven't
apparently
even gone
if I offer to take him to the
Laundry.
French Laundry, he'd be convinced to help. I don't even know who he is.
Oh,
and
that's
I will
hilarious.
still take him to the French Laundry.
That's all it takes?
You can come too.
I'm definitely going.
I owe
We'll just
you.
book a whole party
I think I
there.
owe you a birthday dinner.
Give me at least a birthday dinner.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
But so one question is that when you decide to go local, you have to decide what hardware to purchase to meet that solution.
Good.
And
Titus agrees.
it's basically a question of how multi-threaded your encoder can be. How fast can it take in this information and process it? We can copy our gigabyte mezzanine file into the system, and just regular SATA hard drives can read 50, 60 megabytes a second. You can't necessarily read in 50 to 60 megabytes a second or higher into an encoder. So choosing a solid state drive for an encoding system versus a hard drive doesn't really make any sense.
We're not serving files.
We're not serving files. We're not doing the random IOPS. We're just taking a file, reading it serially, and then doing an encode on it. So if you can't feed your encoder, you might need a higher speed I/O system. But it doesn't make sense to spend money on SSD drives or on like high-speed 15K RPM SAS drives for an encoding platform. And then when you look at the CPU and memory platforms, do you go with a more consumer i7 processor that is basically limited to its 4 cores and non-ECC memory and single socket platform, and try to get the most performance out of that as you can and multiply that by multiple machines? Or do you get a benefit from a dual socket 6-core 3.46 Xeon system with ECC memory? There's 4-socket systems. Intel's got 10-core CPUs and a 4-socket system. So you can throw 40 cores at it at 2.4 gigahertz versus throwing 10 4-core systems.
I presume FFmpeg is threaded, right?
FFmpeg is relatively threaded. What we're seeing on the 3.6 quad system now is that it goes between about 56% and 89% CPU usage as it runs across our files. Now, that changes based on the baseline, based on the FFmpeg options. So I can create a encode that's a single pass that will hit 99% CPU on all 4 threads of the 3.6. The issue with that is that now we have this low quality, single pass encode that we don't necessarily want as an output file. So one of the things is that if the file that we want to create limits FFmpeg's ability to thread and process that very quickly, we could put a whole bunch of money into doing a 4-socket system instead of a 2-socket system, and just to have those other 2 sockets sit around not doing very much. Whereas it would make more sense to separate it to another server. But if we're not creating lots and lots of encodes, if we're looking at taking 1 file in and 3, 4, 5 files out versus 20, and we're not creating lots of shows to be input at the exact same time,
That's part of the issues.
then if you built 10 servers with 4 cores, what would we have those servers doing? How would you fill that queue?
I think in general, because shows are not done at the same time, so they're not going to stack up so much.
Right.
I don't think,
It's always, there's a show, it's over, then there's another show, it's over.
And there's going to be some amount of wait between shows, just and depending on the time it takes to edit and publish and how.
Well, but you have to record the next show. I mean, right now we're only doing one show at a time. So.
But I mean, like if you have a really long show in the morning and then you put that in the thing and it's going, and then a really short show right after that, and that finishes, you have to wait for that long one before the short one could go.
Right now, that's not a problem.
But that's okay, because I think it gives us an opportunity to test it out without spending.
Yeah, and it's something.
10 grand.
It's something that we were also thinking about for the backup or second machine, is that if what we develop can easily be, and it should be in most cases, transportable to Amazon. We can have an EC2 extra large instance at Amazon that's just parked. You know, we shut it down. It's all ready to go.
Right.
If there's a problem with the local in-house machine,
2 machines.
Right. So we could start with 1 machine instead of 2.
Right. That's what I would do.
If there's a problem with that machine, we have the Amazon instance to start, and we just FTP it to there instead and have it pick it up. The only issue is that now somebody has to, as you're updating the program and software that's on the machine that's in-house, they need to also start the Amazon instance, keep that updated, keep that tested and working. But one of the issues is that if you just park an Amazon instance that's the C1X large, you're going to be paying $700 a month for the thing while it's sitting there doing nothing. So you don't actually want to keep this type of instance running all the time. And we don't necessarily want to have a programmer build us a system on EC2 that, you know, can spin up instances, provision the images, you know, collect that server's now online and submit jobs to it, because we don't really need to be able to take, you know, 500 files and encode them today.
Right.
You know, we're taking in a couple of files. So a lot of these encoding.com and the distributed and the, you know, cluster of servers sounds fun, but we don't really need
and redundancy is not. I mean, if you want redundancy, we should get another TriCaster. I mean, we got lots of non-redundant systems here that we could totally be screwed by. Does anybody know? We'll ask Colleen, because she works at YouTube now. But I would love to know how YouTube ingresses its
and
video. They're doing 30 or 40 hours a minute.
If you guys wanted to start accepting user content and posting it on your own website, something like encoding.com would be a really good solution for that,
because it scales, although not cheaply, I'm sure.
It scales, and you'd have to wait for it to.
There's absolutely going to be a test at the end of this. We're going to see how much they remember.
The test is what the hell?
The test is. Geez.
Somebody said in the chat room that they use FFmpeg. I would guess that they use open solutions, but I'm not sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which is also a good question for the MPEG LA organization of.
Yeah, what's YouTube doing, and
what's YouTube doing? I mean, that might actually.
YouTube's position is that we're not a commercial. We're not doing commercial broadcasting.
Oh, come on, not yet.
So that's something that, you know, I keep seeing these dates out there. Like, there's certain things about how MPEG LA has decided to, you know, not think about this till 2013 or 2016.
They've put it off.
They've kind of put it off, but
that doesn't mean we won't get screwed when they don't.
Exactly. Kind of, you know, so it would be curious. It'd be interesting to know if Google is actually actively kind of paying them under the table, or has some kind of agreement where, you know, they won't get, you know, bit by this.
Well, this was the theory about going to WebM, was that then they would be that this was a licensed codec, but then there's a lot of people, including MPEG LA, who say, oh no, there's plenty of our code in there. So that's the problem, is that nobody is indemnified.
And you can go to another codec. You can go to WebM.
I don't mind taking a chance.
But then you have to handle all the compatibility with you know, other devices and older devices. And it's you know, for what we do, it's more important that more people can see it and more people can watch it on their device than using the newest, latest, hottest codec of the day. So,
well, my inclination, I want to find out more about Kaltura. Is Kaltura, what is it a what do you see there? What is it? Is it?
I'm not sure.
The hell is it? Look under solutions.
Media and entertainment.
Just solutions overview. Let's see what that says. 150,000 sites, including HBO, ABC, Warner Brothers. That sounds like they're a service provider, so that they would be like encoding.com.
You know, one thing encoding.com has, as well as the actual encoding, is they have another platform called Vidly that.
I know Vidly.
That they run. And
I didn't know they were partnered with Vidly.
Yeah, and so that's something that has their engine on the back end, and then on the front end, you know, they're creating those 26 different encodes in multiple formats that Vidly uses to show you the file, and so that's kind of powered by them as well. But then that's still hosted on their end.
Interesting.
You know, but they do some really cool things, you know, with Vidly in terms of looking at what browser you requested it from on a mobile device and giving you a file for your appropriate bit rate and device, which is a lot better experience than somebody trying to load the HD file across their 3G connection, because they don't know that they don't know that they shouldn't be choosing that option. And systems like Vidly can give you the file that you should be watching.
Kaltura has a downloadable version as well, so they can host or you can host. You know, this is outsourced. This guy doesn't work for me. This is exactly what we're doing.
Right. Yes. Well, he does work for us because I do change.
Yeah, but I mean, it's outsourced. This is outsourced.
Yeah.
We have staff and we have outsourced people.
Correct.
But we need to solve this. It's fairly important for us to solve this.
But yeah, so one of the things is that, you know, we were looking at Sorensen's API and encoding's API and Zencoder's API. And what we have to do is have somebody that's actually going to program this for us go through the API and tell them, this is what we want to do. Can you do all of these things with this API? Or would it be cheaper for you to code a solution
this is interesting.
with one API over the other?
What was this?
Kaltura uses both FFmpeg and mencoder.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and mCoder is another option other than FFmpeg.
Right. So that makes sense. So really, it's a media workflow solution. They do, by the way, have a Drupal module for Kaltura. So I think that might be a reason to look at Kaltura. And yes, we should also talk to the Lullabot guys because they have solved this.
Right.
They have a video platform.
Yeah, they've worked out. Well, here's the thing: they have a video platform, but they're starting to bring things in house.
Right.
So they were talking to us, and I said, "Well, guess what? We're starting to bring things in house too. So you guys should definitely be talking to their engineers that are working on it."
The problem is we have little time to do the research on this, and
well, it doesn't hurt to ask them what they've already gone through. I mean, this should be like a half an hour conversation with them.
There you go. Monetize TWiT by offering the mezzanine file as a download for $100 an episode, and then BitTorrent it.
Why would we do that?
Because this is brilliant. Hartwell's brilliant. You say you charge $100, and then you know that people will pirate it. They'll BitTorrent. Problem solved.
There you go.
That's evil, but genius.
But can I count those downloads?
We could crowdsource the encoding. Everybody could just download the mezzanine file.
There you go.
Encode it in whatever format that they want. You know, you'd have thousands of formats.
Why don't you just make it a buck, and then you'd actually make the money because they
video.
wouldn't bother pirating it.
That's brilliant. Well, when we started, that's how I did it. We offered BitTorrent. We used a BitTorrent, so we had a BitTorrent server and all that stuff. But
so yeah, Kaltura would be a good thing to take a look at as well with their API.
It might be good to use with FFmpeg or mencoder and use that as a
right. And so
shell for
and if they're more meant for handling the metadata. I mean, one of the things that would be nice is still to be able to not have to do the audio file as a separate process.
I agree.
It would be really nice to say, okay, this is
mezzanine.
This is the metadata. Here's the folder JPEG that needs to be embedded in the
to that
file.
end, we've made the audio conform with the video. We have the same teas at the beginning and all that stuff. That was the point.
And that's because of this.
Right.
Now, the problem where that can go is if we do a cloud solution, we have to upload the mezzanine file first. Then the audio is going to have to wait.
Slows down the audio.
Right.
We actually are faster now getting audio out, especially TNT. Jason does it almost before the show is done.
If it's locally, then it's fine.
Well, looking at it, I mean, aside from the upload, though, when you put the audio rip out in FFmpeg, it can run through the entire mezzanine file in about 15, 20 seconds and build you an MP3. So it's very quick to strip the MP3 out. This doesn't take very long.
Not a lot of work.
It should be, exactly. So the issue is, if this all lives on a remote platform, you have to upload that large mezzanine file first before that can happen. And then if the system that lives on can't put the metadata in, you have to integrate it with another system that can pull that file in, put the metadata in, and then upload it where it needs to go. Any verification. One of the things that would actually be interesting to find out is there a good way of doing a verification on these type of files, on these media files?
So that we know,
if there's
junk out.
If there's a process, I haven't. This is something I've been thinking of, but haven't started really looking into yet. But
some sort of like compare it to the mezzanine
like
make
you
sure
can,
that it's all there.
Like you can run an XML, verifier on your feeds to make sure that the feeds aren't corrupt. When you start auto-publishing feeds, you might set up a system that could potentially retrieve an HTTP 500 error instead of the feed it was supposed to retrieve from the API, and store that into your feeds file. So you also want to have some way of doing file verification where, you know, if we can run a MP3 and an MP4 through some sort of process that would tell us, you know, yes, this is a valid file, and it's not going to have any kind of dropouts or corruption at the beginning or macro blocking overflows, all the little things that can happen with video encoding. I don't know if there's a platform or program that can, you know, give you a visual quality, give you an audio quality, kind of analyze the file automatically. Because once you start generating all these files, it's too much work to say, you know, before we publish this file, somebody has to watch it and approve it.
Right.
It's just not possible with, you know, unless you have a team of people watching all of the content of all of the encodes before they go live. You know, you're going to be uploading something that has the potential to have an issue in it.
So if you have some thoughts, there's the problem in a nutshell. I think it's a fairly important technical issue for TWiT. It wasn't a problem when we were just audio. It was easy. I could do it all. Now that it's video and there are multiple formats, video takes a long time to encode.
30 shows.
We have 30 shows. Metadata becomes important. Getting it to the website becomes important. If you have a solution, leo@leoville.com. Share it with me, and I'll share it with the team. I think we've got some really good feedback from you guys. I think we'll look at Kaltura. We'll look at some other.
Yeah, Kaltura mentions things about metadata and thumbnails and sort of, you know, promising type things versus some of these other encoding platforms.
They also do closed captioning, and now we're not doing that right now. But I love the idea that we could add closed captions to our stuff.
How do we get the text for that?
Well, that's why we don't do it, because somebody would have to do that. But we could pay somebody to do that.
Leave it as a Google Voice voicemail and let them do it.
Yeah,
That's bad.
Formats is not an issue, Dr. T. Right now, we do H.264 high and low. We absolutely, if we had a good solution that did it automatically, it would let us do more formats.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we'd like to automate.
Right.
This.
And
that Roku and Boxier
and
partners
about the
that
HD
Kaltura.
format, it's, you know, it's one of the things that we really want to do is raise the quality of that HD format file, because it was created with the same level 3.0 type profiles as our SD files were created with. Right. So because we don't need to think about maybe somebody's going to download this HD file on an iOS 3 device.
We tune the HD mezzanine file to be, we kind of just set the slider around so where we could have a low enough file size without a noticeable quality drop. And that's kind of where we set the mezzanine file, but then MediaFly was taking that and making their...
Switching it.
Even,
hard.
Right. So if we can just kind of rip it out as it is.
Oh, dear. Oh, that's your son. Well, we're going to wrap anyway. I thought, oh my God. Videola was the thing that Tholabot's been telling us about. You know what? This is all converging.
Right.
And one of the reasons it's worth our time and energy and money to do this is because this is something that all IPTV has to solve. And I think that there are probably some good solutions out there, and that solving this is a big part of making us more efficient, getting the video to you in better ways and faster. But also, it could be of value to us. Our workflow is Dvorak told me this from day one. He said, patent your workflow. That's what's really people buy, is how you do it. And I think
Also, you
that's
have
a good
copyright
point.
in your script,
Well,
right?
and people come by all the time to see how we built the studio, and then once
People
they
are
see
very
it, they kind
interested.
of run away.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
But I guarantee you that what it's clear now that a good part of our business model. Look, I mean, the reason we can't sell a company right now is because I'm the company. But as we develop workflows and other solutions, and I'm not for sale.
Oh, he's totally for sale.
No, I'm for
Just
sale.
call me.
Oh, I'm for sale. No, that we're adding value to the company over and above the actual shows that we do, and I think that's really important. Really important. And we should have funnel cakes. I agree, Bobby.
Absolutely.
We all agree about that.
And a cotton candy machine.
The fryer is coming.
Along with the popcorn machine and
Yeah, can we do It's an ice cream?
It's an ice cream. For those who are asking about Alex Lindsay, of course, Alex Lindsay, a very valued
One
and
slightly used
trusted
video.
consultant on all of this stuff. He's
just very
not here
busy.
right now, but he's absolutely somebody we talk to.
So is there anything else we should be, announcing today besides this? Or
What else?
well,
Is there anything else?
we're the official NAB partners.
We're
Have we
excited
said
about
that
NAB.
yet?
We've
We're the
said it.
streaming partner.
We said it, but I think we'll say it. It's worth saying again. We're going to be at NAB this year. And stay tuned. We will have passes for all of you So you will be able to go to NAB and see us, which is really exciting news.
Right.
Stay tuned to that.
Right.
Lisa's 29 tomorrow, so happy birthday, Lisa.
For the 14th time.
Yeah. Is that really? No.
Yes.
And yes, there will be a show. The new show is Lisa on the Rings.
There we go.
And we'll just show it over and over. It'll be like those dog puppies.
Aren't you
You'll
going to
just
do that
over and
tomorrow? Are you
over.
going to put
Shiba
happy
Inu.
birthday, happy 29th birthday, Lisa, and just air it tomorrow?
Sure. NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters show, which ironically
Good luck,
is
Titus.
some of this, but mostly it's old school, and I think it's going to be more and more of this as time goes by. Game On is going well. You saw that Glenn is in there. He's testing the Left 4 Dead server, so if you have Left 4 Dead 4, get on in there. TWiT London, any day now. No.
And then
I
some
shouldn't say that.
people in the chat room were asking about the HD drop cams, Leo.
We're not happy with the results we're getting from the HD drop cams. It looks not so great. So we're waiting. That's on hold. We are talking to another company about advertising that does something similar. So we may be looking at another choice. We'll see. I don't think they look that good. It's like kind of disappointing.
Well, a lot of things say they're HD, but
Well, I think what they really mean is 16:9.
maybe.
That's all. Because the quality is not high def. We'll look. It looks like it's too heavily compressed. Exactly.
It's got great audio.
Unfortunately, the audio is really good, and that's a problem.
Yeah, the audio. Yeah.
And
Great.
We are HD, and we will offer HD streams. We still have to get partners to agree to let us have 2 gigabyte downloads on their servers.
Which is why it's only TWiT right now.
Right. But TWiT, if you haven't seen TWiT in HD, it looks pretty good. And
Again, it will be better once we can.
this will
own
help
thing.
it be better. Exactly.
Right. Well, we do have 3 shows that we'd like to launch this year. Do we dare say those out loud?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't
Really?
know what they are. What are
Leo
they?
doesn't even know what they are. They've been
They're
on my
your
board.
whiteboard. They're on your whiteboard.
Jeez.
Lisa has a whiteboard now. If you could just
Yes.
see what it says, you would know secrets.
You would know all of our secrets. So you're going to have to make sure you come here and look in the window in my office. Is Chad's running in there? Hey, Chad, what are my 3 shows? One is I'd like to see IT professionals for the enterprise level.
We want to do
Like
an
people
IT show, enterprise
Right.
IT show, and
So
you'd be very good at that,
Russell would probably be on it, and we'd have a couple more people. I'd like to
actually,
rotate
this is a
people
good show
in.
to announce now, because if you enjoyed what you just saw,
Yes.
Yes,
Stay
all,
tuned.
Yes,
all
stay
of this,
tuned.
all
We
this
would do more.
exciting
any of this
talk.
made sense to you, that's the show for you.
Well, what I'd like to do with this is bring in people that
it's not an enterprise show. It's
not
an
an-
IT show.
It's an IT show, so it's about the people that actually work in the field, and they would put together some of the problems they're tackling and things along those lines. So I've been brainstorming this one for a while. I think it would be great. Yeah, it'd be kind of like bringing in the war stories, the heroes
but
in
not
IT.
an enterprise show. Not like what's the best CRM solution.
No, the IT professionals
But-
that work in the enterprise level.
So
we
Setting
were
up
getting
appropriate.
flapping on the Ethernet, and we decided that we had to go in and tune the Cisco router.
They like the idea.
because the BGP tables were, that kind of crap.
Gotta love BGP tables.
So the other show that you guys are going to go a little bit more crazy on is that we're going to launch Leo's variety show. I'd like to do that by June, July.
That is nuts. But the reason we want to do that, it's basically the screensavers. It's very difficult to do that show. And the reason it's difficult is it takes a lot of production. But there are all sorts of things that are too short to do a show, like Burt Monroy coming in and doing a Photoshop tip. So what we'd like to do is a screensaver style hour-long show. We could only do it once a week. But it would have
It's nuts, but he loves the idea.
little things
so.
like that. And we're thinking Saturdays. It would also feature Alex Lindsay with the cocktail of the week.
And so the other show that we'd like to launch this year, because, I don't plan anything, is I want to get the backspace built out and have that either be a maker show or, it could be, I think it could be more than one show back there. I think we could have other people building
I want to do an
products
electronics teaching show. Veronica Belmont and I are very interested in doing more education, like how electronics work, things like that. And I think there's a real opportunity to do that. So we want to do that very much.
So yeah, that's going to take a little bit of work, and
All 3 of these are really ridiculously difficult.
Does that mean we're hiring?
maybe.
Possibly. We feel pretty bullet. Chad's going, we better be.
Everyone's a little scared. We're also doing some other things. We're starting to bring some. I'm bringing ad sales in house a little bit, so if there's any marketing professionals out there that really want to be on our network, you can send me an email.
Sales types? Salesforce people?
Oh, yeah. So you can send me, well, 2 things. One, if you want to, if you actually want to advertise on
call
TWiT.
Lisa.
No, don't call me. Lisa at twit.tv.
Email Lisa.
Email me. And if I am going to, I'll throw this out there. Maybe I shouldn't, but email Liz at twit.tv. I'm going to be hiring a sales assistant.
Let the flood begin.
Let me throw it out there now. I need someone that can handle working for me.
And we do need a Herb Tarlick.
But you got to make more time for more shows or switch them up.
You can move here and work for free multi-dollar.
Anytime.
I'll buy you breakfast.
I'll buy you lunch. You'll be set. We'll feed you.
2 meals a day. Third one's up to you.
Oh, no. We have enough snacks here. We'll make sure you.
I don't believe in show acquisition so much, Pilot, because I just don't believe in it. I like to do our own stuff. I think we have a unique style, and I think it's better. It's not on the Samsung Smart TV, and all of what you just saw is about getting it on things like the Smart TV. We've got to have a workflow that allows us to do these. Mediafly was the partner that was getting us on all these platforms: Vizio, Yahoo Widgets, Popcorn Hour, Roku. They're not going to be doing that anymore. So this is a very expensive proposition, but that's part of all of this.
Have we looked into the Xbox with that new thing?
I would love to
They
be on that
approached me, and I need to call Rob. We've talked about it, but it's going to be moot until we get a solution that we can create something that they can use.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yes. I wish I could clone myself and
We are
have
using
like 2 or 3
Google Plus
more people.
Hangouts for Trey's Variety Hour, which is now Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Please watch. Join the Hangout if you can get in, and we will make those downloads very soon.
Yeah, we'll see how that keeps going. Maybe we should consider a possible separate chat for that. So it's because it's more photographers hopping in on the chat. Might have to consider that.
No, I won't. I think we don't. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
The same thing happened with NSFW. People hated the NSFW.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you got a lot of new people going in
Trey
the chat.
can explain to them, and you guys will get used. They'll get used to it. It wasn't the first time.
Yeah, why not be transparent?
Oh, the kids are here.
All right. Well,
Is
I think
it 5 already?
Yes.
Holy camole!
You guys know how to talk.
So coming up, it's what do you call this, Daniel? Future Web. Yep. Nice to see you. Daniel Brusilovsky and his team are here to do a show. I thought you guys did it via Skype. You're
Status
actually
of
being
Maker
studio
shows, we're looking to
That is
build
awesome.
out
Is
the
Brian
space.
Wong?
So probably I would
Daniel
anticipate
Brusilovsky,
summer or
Joey,
after summer.
What's his last name? Brumiani.
Leo will wear pants or I will put him in a skirt. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I'm actually not going to wear pants. I'm going to wear a bathrobe and jammies.
Great.
I'm going to be like Hugh Hefner. No, seriously, that's the whole theme behind this.
Yeah, I was
is
thinking
that
kilt.
We don't. It's like I move around the studio.
Yeah, jammies. I like jammies. We should have a TWiT slumber party sometime.
Welcome to the show.
Gonna get a wireless camera.
I would love to do a business side of the show when I'm. Maybe you guys should just put a drop cam in my office and you can do the business show there. But I'd like to know when it's on.
That's all we need.
That's all you need.
Just watch Lisa work. That's your business education.
Thank
you for being here, Russell. I really appreciate it. Your insight is very, very valuable. Russell is just fantastic. Exponentia.com. EXPONENTIA.com.
I don't do that many spreadsheets
Without the E.
anymore.
Without the E?
Without the E, everybody does with
there's
the
no
E.
E.
It's
Exponentia without the E.
exponentia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got lots of free time.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever you can squeeze out of 72 to 80 hours a week, more than that, sure.
Real Housewives of Tech. There's no housewives
Lisa
here.
No housewife.
I have one at home though. She's great.
She hires her housewife.
No, I don't.
We did have a wine sponsor for the show. Remember what happened? We all got drunk.
Let's do it again.
Not a good idea.
Oh, I'm not that bad.
Lisa never, ever, ever does that.
Oh, I did at the football game last week.
That was bad. She was yelling at Alex Smith. But other than that,
yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Right.
The kids are here. Future Web is next. Look at, they're all set up. They're ready to go. This is so cute.
Great.
So we go from the old fart to the young guys.
There you go. Hey, speak for yourself.
No, I said the old fart.
Oh, that's right.
Plural.
That wasn't plural.
There were one of them.
I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, we will definitely
That'll
do
be
Archerino on the Maker Show. And Giants or Pats?
Oh, Giants. I got to go with my,
Giants or
I got to
Pats?
stay with NFC.
Sports.
Yeah.
Same thing.
What?
And go Giants.
I love these guys.
What do they do? Is it this ball or this
I hope
ball?
they get
or?
a home run.
I still want to go to the Super Bowl. So whoever's
Super
got
what?
tickets,
I hope they get
I'll be
a
happy to buy
home
the one off of you if you'll let me go with you.
And they go all the way around and touch all the bases.
I agree with Duff Jessica. Anyone but the Patriots.
I'm rooting for the Pats because I'm a New Englander.
Whatever.
I'm from Boston. I'm from Providence.
If the IT show, I think, could probably start sooner. I think that would be a roundtable
it's about
show.
hosts.
It's about hosts. So if you have hosts for the IT show, that'll be a lot easier than the variety show and the maker show. But I think, we'd have Russell on as a regular. I'd like to get a couple people like as regulars and rotate in others. They'd be out scouting. And we're actually working on, Leo's going to do... Okay, I'll stop talking. But I'm going to have Leo moderate something along those lines. So I'm hoping to get a list of IT experts at that point and see
need IT experts.
how it goes.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.